to Hamburg Educational Ethics, WIDD, WKBW, WGRZ, WYNN, the Buffalo News, the Hamburg Sun, talked to State Department of Education, State Department of Special Education, Senator Gallivan, Senator Kennedy, Barb Trunzo, who else? I talked to everybody. 90% of the comments I made fall under IEP issues, adaptive physical education, special education, the district not following district policies or regulations, public school board meetings. Many of them were word for word the same comment that I posted on the blog, on WIDB or whatever. So involving me in a lawsuit because I'm advocating for a disabled child, or for every child in the district, or because of my lifestyle, the district needs to be aware that in singling me out, you are running the risk of me filing a complaint with the New York State Human Rights Department. The district has already spent thousands of dollars. I have 47 pages of just legal information that was served by my lawyer to Harris Beach back and forth since March 1st. Harris Beach, the lawyer at Harris Beach, charges $500 an hour. That is $23,500 that we have spent this year alone. If you look at the budget, the increase of 12, you've got to be insane. You've already spent 25 to sue a private citizen for speaking out against publicly elected officials or public personalities. You are all public people. I have the right, First Amendment right, to do this. To speak to the news, to blog about it, and you're trying to sue me and 2 other people over this. You don't think that $23,500 would buy, I don't know, let's see, I complained about my kid having a gym in the hallway, playing Wii with other disabled kids because there's only 2 controllers. $23,500 would buy a controller. $23,500 would pay for my kid to have the age he's supposed to have in swimming. But yet you're choosing to serve a subpoena against a private citizen who's exercising their First Amendment rights and talking about publicly elected officials, much like we talk about the president or, I don't know, any congressman. The district has already spent so much money. So I'm asking the school board to have Harris Beach withdraw the subpoena. I'd also like the board to reconsider having Harris Beach represent them. Your lawyer didn't file the subpoena correctly. We're wasting money. Additionally, I would like to ask Diane Reynolds, Patricia Barnett-Collins, Joan Hawkins, Steve Aramovich, and Matthew Dills for a written letter of apology for trying to take away my First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Is that true?
Yes, it's 100%.
Is that true what he said?
You want to say it? That is the lawsuit.
I just want to know if it's true. You guys tell if it's true. Yeah. Dave Yobin, I'm running for school board. Is that true?
We are not the public comment.
7 people working together. That's what you're supposed to have here. 7 people working together and you're suing each other? That's a disgrace. Wasting the money that belongs to our children for a lawsuit that's personal.
Dave, this is not a personal lawsuit.
It is too a personal lawsuit. You're wasting our money. We can't afford this lawsuit.
That was allegedly recorded.
We can't afford the lawsuit, and you know it. We're broke. You saw that. Did you see the presentation? We don't have the money, so we can't do the lawsuit. You're supposed to be 7 people elected by this district working together. Are you working together or are you suing each other? Tell us now. You should be ashamed of yourself. Suing each other? You're supposed to work together. Cooperation. This is wrong. Drop the lawsuit tonight. Drop it off. Stop that money being wasted. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's personal.
$500 an hour.
It's personal. It isn't the school's business.
I'm going to
You know, what we just went through at the beginning of this meeting was ridiculous. It's not us against them. It's not this side of the table over there. We work together. 7 people elected by the district to work together, not sue each other. No, you don't. You can't sue people. We can't afford it. You saw the presentation. We don't have the money, so we can't do the lawsuit. It's wrong. Vote right now and drop that lawsuit. Do it right now. Does anybody else want to do it?
Yeah.
Yes, my name is
If all child legal actions get dropped at the same time, there are a lot of legal actions by a lot of different people.
Then let's work together. Let's work together to do that. Then let's work together to do that.
Why not drop a lawsuit that involves 3 private citizens? Violates our First Amendment right. Come on.
I was not aware until you made me aware.
Thank you.
And as soon as you made me aware, I made the other board members aware. I was not aware. So, you know, I was aware when you contacted me, and then I immediately, the next morning, I notified all the other board members, which I thought you had contacted them too. So, I apologize.
Is there anybody?
I would like to make a comment.
I'm sorry.
A couple comments, and my comments were kind of derailed by this, which I support 100%. So I'll first start with a question to you, Dr. Hawkins. You don't have to answer, it's obviously public comment, but I'm being sued by this district. And you all know that. It's in the paper. Did you just tell me that if somebody else drops a lawsuit against that man right there, that you would drop a lawsuit against me? I'm sorry, I will not be held hostage. You are a public official, you're on the camera, you said it. Did you just say it, yes or no?
I first out and said something that was not carefully thought
Thank you,
out.
you said it. I'm sure that'll be very interesting. My question that I had in the first instance was regarding study halls. I teach in the high school, and I have students throughout the day who have oftentimes appeared somewhat bored toward the end of the day. And upon looking into this, I have several students, freshmen, who are sitting in 2 and sometimes 3 study halls. And I'm just wondering if, given the budget that was presented to the public this evening, if we are prudently using taxpayer dollars to be sure that students are not idling and atrophying away in study halls. If I look at the legal budget going back to 2010-11, when we entered the school year with a $4.2 million fund balance. $4.2 million fund balance in 2010-11. The school budget's legal fees were $15,000 contractual to BOCES. 2011-12, $15,000 and $15,000 contractual to BOCES. We all know you spent well over that in the last 2 years. I think somewhere around $500,000. And then we go into this school year, and the number that was just presented is $50,000 in legal fees. No mention of BOCES. My question is, how is it when these fees are presented to the public in a budget format that the district goes over what the public has approved when they vote on the budget? Did someone answer that?
I will. I put forth a resolution that'll be at the next meeting on the 14th, which we have given the superintendent unread amount of money to transfer from fund to fund. We paid Harris fees early on, probably August, September, $100,000. So that $50,000 isn't truly reflected, Mr. Johnson. We probably have spent maybe $150,000 Harris fees, in all probability. You don't get a true amount. We get the warrants. You never get a description of how it's being spent. That's why I presented this resolution, so that the school district, the school board could get a handle on how money is transferred from fund to fund. So you actually know the true dollar amounts that is spent. Legal fees, it could be any fees. Right now, we have something that was brought to the attention in July at our organization meeting to set the limits for the superintendent that he could transfer up to $50,000 without school board approval. Then we had an argument about it, and then it was talked about maybe $20,000. Then I made a motion to table. Penny Martin-Collins seconded the motion. It was tabled. There's been no discussion since July 2012. Now, the bottom line is, all 7 of us, Mr. Crown, which is not a member of the board, we are responsible for that budget. And there are districts that have been sued, East Ramapo, Roslyn School, Free School District, they were sued. And the district was not required to indemnify the school board members because of fiscal mismanagement. Now, I'm going to make mention of situations that happened. One of the school board members sat on the board for 19 years. He was sued, and the school district was not indemnified. We had a situation here, 06, 07, a long-time standing member of the community, an administrator, elected to the board president, lost $1.8 million. The board wasn't made aware of it, and this is through this, Mr. DiNapoli, the state controller, did an audit on the school district. Check after check after check after check bounced because the school board was not made aware that there was no money there, that the transportation funds, we were not going to receive that year. So the bottom line, I had a simple resolution, really not controversial, setting limits, how we can, as a lot of municipalities, we meet often enough, we meet once a month, sometimes twice a month. Nobody expects to have their bills paid within 30 days. So I thought we would give possibly the superintendent a $5,000 leeway. If you needed more money, you come to the board, explain to the board what it's for, because we are the stewards of the financial management of this district, not the superintendent. Right now, the superintendent has unlimited amount of transfer rights from item to item. Unemployment, he can bring into the legal fees. He can bring this into legal fees. We have spent more money on legal fees than that $50,000 is a fake number. Because what will happen, unless you put a limit and a stop to this, money's going to be transferred in all along. Like you said, this may be a $25,000 for one situation.
Since March 1st, you folks 100 years ago would be tarred and feathered and ran out of town.
And the bottom line is, we are a broke school district. Mr. Yobin is correct. We don't have this type of money for the witch hunt. I will address this in executive session. I will end the discussion here, but we need to put a stop. We need to put limits on the superintendent and what he can and can't transfer money because we should have control. If he asks for $10,000 for something, the board is made aware of it. They know how it's being spent. I'm telling you, not until a month ago did I have a line on my budget. I couldn't tell you actually what was spent on each item. And I'm a school board member, and that's not right.
And then to clarify, maybe if you could clarify, because you guys are mentioning 50,000 in legal fees, but I think that's just the program component, because under the administrative component, human resources, public info, legal, it's $412,538.
That's $412,000.
Right, but that's HR and it's under the administrative budget, is that how?
If you look at the line item budget, you'll see that there is.
Isn't it 1410, 1420, code 1420 is legal expenses, is it not?
That is correct. And if you were to look in the line item budget, which is going to be available in all buildings, and you will see that this current fiscal year, there was $115,450 budgeted, and for 13-14, it's $120,000. So there was a misunderstanding about the 50,000 is only in the program budget. The balance is in the administrative budget, and that's a requirement by law that we break it between the two. So when it was funny, that's why I said the three-part budget is kind of funny, it's hard to read, it doesn't make a ton of sense. I would recommend, if you want to compare things in the budget, you should refer to the line item budget, it'll be a little easier there.
I have a question, sort of along the lines of Mark. My name is Catherine Schraub-Papucci. I'm also running for school board. I believe Martha's question was, can you explain the difference between the actual figure and the number that was in your budget for legal fees? Looking over this budget, the different components, program component, capital component, administrative component, you have the proposed budgets, adopted budgets, then you show an increase and decrease. All these numbers are, as it says here and on the slides, they're proposed numbers, they're estimated revenue. They're not actual expenditures are they? Do you ever compare your actual revenue and your actual expenditures to your proposed budget? Right now, these are all proposed numbers, not actual expenditures and revenues.
The way that we are required to present this is, we're calling it proposed because it's not been approved by the voters. So it's been adopted by the Board of Education, but the budget is still proposed because it hasn't been voted on yet. And then we compare it to the adopted current year budget, so that you can see, okay, this is what we adopted this current year, that's what the voters approved, and this is what the voters, we're asking the voters to approve for the upcoming fiscal year. So it's called proposed until that becomes approved by the
But
voters.
the 2012, 2013 adopted budget, those are proposed figures. They're not actual revenue and actual expenditures, are they?
That is what that is the adopted budget.
Right.
On July 1st, that was the adopted budget. That's not, doesn't show you what's been expended to date.
That's right. That's exactly my point. When you ever tell the taxpayers the difference between your proposed revenue and your actual revenue, because it may be less, and your proposed expenditures and your actual expenditures, I've gone to all these workshops and I don't see actual numbers that you've spent or actual revenue you've received compared to what you proposed those numbers would have been.
Right. Well, it's actually done in several different ways. At every regular board meeting of the Board of Education each month, I bring a book with me, not to work sessions, but which shows the treasurer's reports. It shows all of our, has an expenditure report in there, year-to-date expenditures, year-to-date revenue, that's all in there. All of budget transfers are in there, so they all may be looked at by the Board of Education. Those are public documents. If you wanted to look at them, you could look at them. At the end of the school year, we're required to have an external audit, and we have an auditor come in and basically ties out the books. And there's a document that's published, and also one that's sent to the state, and that's also provided, published in the newspaper that's been completed. You can come in and get a copy of that.
Oh,
We put that online.
The audit? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
The audit.
So, I mean,
But you don't put any of those figures, that information on your slides, have you?
well, no, we have not on the slides, because my question would be what, I mean, I certainly could, but at what point of time, in order to be, I wouldn't want to change it every month. I mean, my experience is you have to have something that you completely compare it to every time. Because if I started changing the expenditure budget, like on a monthly basis, okay, this is what we expended, now it's January, now it's February. What I've experienced is that the general public becomes confused, and I don't mean to be condescending, but they think, okay, well, why does it keep changing? Because now the expenditure budget has changed what we've expended to date, and we're also like changing our proposed budget, because we're working on it, trying to get that right. And now those numbers just kind of start going everywhere, and people become somewhat confused, and they think, oh no, what are they doing? They're changing this, they're changing that. So we always have a comparison of our adopted budget. Next year, the superintendent and the board said, okay, use where we are in January. Not quite 6 months, but say use where we are in January, and you want to show that as a halfway point. You certainly could do that, but I think consistency and showing a proper comparison that is consistent is helpful.
Excuse me. You just said that you have these numbers at every board meeting?
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay, so being that the board meeting is what, next Tuesday? Don't you have these numbers aren't they prepared now?
No. Well, the way it works is you have to write it just like at home.
I understand
We
that.
have to wait.
So you would have last month's numbers? You would have last month's numbers?
We lag about a month to 6 weeks behind, depending.
Okay, so February's, March?
The last one we did was.
What I'm getting at is you're presenting the budget to the community. It would be, I don't know, You would think that it would be important for the community to know when you present the budget, you're using, this is the year-to-date numbers that we spent over or above, or where we, haven't gone over budget from last year. The public voted for X amount of dollars, and we are this much over. Because you're presenting the proposed budget from last year and a proposed budget from this year, but no one in the room knows exactly how much we've spent.
Well, the one thing that I do want.
So we can talk rainbows and unicorns all we want.
The one thing I do want to remind everybody is that what the voters and the Board of Education votes on is the total expenditure budget.
Yes, I understand
They are not voting, the public nor the board, when they adopt, are adopting or voting on a particular line item budget. You are adopting the total sums to be expended for the operation of the school district.
I get that, but it's nice to know where that money goes. And how much is that being spent? I agree with you.
If I can just finish my comment. I
Sorry.
bring this up because in 2008, 2007, 2008, the New York State Controller did 2 audits of the Hamburg School Board. And back then, they noted that there were some discrepancies in your actual revenue and your actual expenditures. You used proposed expenditures and proposed revenue. And it sounds to me like you're still doing the same thing. We want actual expenditures, but you don't seem to be mentioning that. What is the difference between your actual expenditures and proposed budget? Thank you.
I was only on the board one year last year, so I had a lot of questions too about that, because it was, I didn't quite understand the whole process. It took some time. We were given, and the only reason I know this is because I was shocked. I looked at the numbers and the fund balance was so much more than projected, so I took the actual, so I don't remember what meeting, maybe if we can pull the agenda, July, August, September. We did go through the actual numbers, and the fund balance ended up being more, and then we voted to move it to, so we were given, it was presented at one of the meetings, I can't remember what, August. We were given the actual expenditures. I don't think it was broken down line by line, but I do remember being, this is way off from, but our fund balance was a little more than we had projected, which would allowed us to, correct. So that's the only reason I do remember getting it, and it was not done prior years, from what I understand. This was done last year, and last year was the first year. It wasn't done I don't know that, I don't remember it, but it was my first couple months on the board. But I remember comparing the numbers and being, we were given it after the close, so you really can't close the books. So if you're talking the end of the school year is July 1st, basically, or the start of the new June 30th. So then you really can't close that out until 60 days later, because you're still gonna pay bills from June, right? I only have a small business, so you're still paying too much, so then you would expect to be able to present it to the public in September, realistically, correct?
I don't know if it was August or September.
I can't remember.
In September. We had the auditor come in and do the whole presentation.
So we are doing that now, I think. But if people want it broken down more and we do an actual expenditure, then that would be up to you guys. But I think that we did.
In the actual audit, it does show you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I have one more quick question. $60 million is a large budget. Have you ever do long-range budgeting for more than just 1 year at a time?
That is actually something, yes, that we do. I don't have a line item long-range budget. However, some of the things that we work on projecting is what's going to happen to our payroll over the next 3 years, assuming everything is status quo with all the contracts, and other assumptions based on CPI, what's going to happen with pension contributions, where does that look like? We do a lot of forecasting regarding pension contributions, health insurance costs. There's a lot of work that's done to see where we're going and how much it's gonna cost us when we get there, and how we can work towards having those funds, that people just don't see, because it's, things we don't do anymore.
We don't see, you don't present that long-range forecast to the public. You just present the budget.
We haven't in the past. No, I don't think so.
We sent pieces of it, you forecasted fund balance.
Fund balance and things like that.
And where, personnel costs are tracking. You've given us presentations. Obviously it's very difficult to go and say, here's a 3 to 5 year plan and exactly where we're going to be, but
We do that track, we do have the 4-year enrollment projections, so
Right.
it makes the projections in the budget are enrollment projections, so that is, that's part of the long-range plan, yes.
It's really not that hard to do when 70% of your budget is people. 70% of our budget is payroll and benefits. Things, health insurance, pension costs, our FICA, our payroll. So it's really not that hard to project. Based on the information that we have today, of course, that it's fluid and it changes, but it's clearly something that we have a pretty good handle on.
If it's not that hard to project, then how come we don't see it being done year after year? A long-range budget up on the slides.
We have done, like I said, certain pieces that we've shown in some of the meetings, but I love slides like that. I'd be happy to do it. I don't know how anybody else does it.
Can I just make a comment and one question? I'm Laura Heater, I'm also running for the school board, and I feel sick right now. I'm wondering if anybody else has the same feeling. We are supposed to be talking about, yes, the budget, but it's the students that we're supposed to be thinking about. And I sat through that Erie One BOCE seminar for the school board candidates and people that want to run, and we talked with attorneys, other superintendents, school board representatives from around the districts, and we talked about what a functional board is. And I don't think anybody here can say that this is a functional board. And I don't think we can point fingers at each other. It's this side, it's that side. It doesn't matter. It's not working. And I just find that so sad that I feel the students are the ones who are getting lost in the long run here. That's what's happening. And I don't know, I don't understand all the lawsuits. I don't even want to understand all the lawsuits. I hope nobody's suing anybody for personal gain with taxpayer money. I hope that that's not the case.
It is a case, Laura.
It's disgusting if that's the case. I don't understand how that can be allowed. I think
Okay.
all of them should be dropped. Let's start thinking about the kids, how to have Hamburg in the paper in a positive light, how to work together as a cohesive group, and stop all this arguing and bickering. Let's talk about programming. Let's talk about making our school in the top 10. Let's just stop the nonsense, because based on what I sat in at the Erie One BOCE seminar, this is definitely not a functioning board.
Thank you, Laura.
Do any school board members have comments? Would you like to defend yourself or let your opinion be heard?
I'd like to say something about the district itself. I think that when you look at the results that the district has, I think it's a strong district. There was just a report on national schools. I believe it was in the Buffalo News today. Hamburg High School was in the top 1,000 schools of the country. There was only a handful of Western New York schools that did that, and we were one of them. I can't remember where we fit in overall in the business first rankings, but it's fairly high. Yeah, I think we're in the top 10 yet, but hopefully we'll get there.
Excuse me, but you're changing the topic.
No, I'm not.
You have a response to the lawsuit.
Please, do not interrupt me. You asked me if
I
anyone has any
apologize.
comments. I'm trying to actually take Laura's side and say, let's talk about what's going on here. Let's talk about the positives and the things that are going on. Are there interpersonal conflicts? Obviously, yes. But if we can look beyond those and look at what the district's doing, I think the district is a strong district. I think, if you look at the results that our kids have, I think if you look at some of the schools that our kids go to, I sat here last year during the scholarship presentation, and I was very proud to see that one of our students got a scholarship to the U.S. Air Force Academy. I've also been told that another graduate in a previous year has gone to the Naval Academy. The school produces good kids. You look at our sports teams. We haven't cut sports teams. We have a strong extracurricular activities for our kids with our clubs. You look at the AP classes, the presentation Rick you did with the number of AP classes that are available to students here. The fact that our finance academy is one that other districts are trying to emulate. I think there's a lot of positive things going on in this district. And I agree with Laura that it's too bad that all that positiveness can get buried in some of this other stuff. I just like the other stuff to just work its course and let's concentrate on the positive, concentrate on what the kids are doing, and concentrating on continuing to make this district as good as it is.
So can we just get rid of it all? What does it take, a vote? How do you get rid of all of
It
it?
has to work its way through, Laura. I mean, it's not something we're really gonna talk about in a public forum
In the
like this.
meantime, I think all of us, as board members, are working our hardest, as we possibly can for this district. I put in endless amounts of time, effort, working desperately for this district, and I think that's the case for each and every one of us. So that it is true, it's very painful, it's very sad when different people attack each other. But at the same time, as long as we keep our eyes on the kids, as in the morning we get up, we are doing the best we possibly can for the kids, working with the teachers, working with the principals. That's our goal, and that is absolutely what I can say for sure I am doing. I'm desperately doing the best I can possibly do for our kids, and I think that each and every one of the board members is doing the best they can do. And in that sense, I think that we really do work together as a board, because with all R&D, we have our eyes set on trying to keep this school district as healthy as possible and keep the kids educated as well as we possibly can.
Another positive thing that I see is that the fact that in prior years, this auditorium was full of parents and angry students and upset people that a team's being cut, or a program's being cut, or classes are being cut, and class sizes are increasing. The fact that there isn't that many people here yelling, and the fact that it was a little bit easier to adopt a proposed budget with, I do think that we all did work together doing that, and that there are cuts. Everyone had to cut in the budget because of other increases. However, we're not losing any programming, and people aren't losing their jobs this year. To me, I look around and I see my kids' teachers, and you see the people walking the halls, and that makes me very happy that people are not losing their jobs this year, because that was always something that was very difficult for me.
I would like to point something out. Tom Flynn talked about how amazing our students are, and they are, and the programs that they receive are. What's amazing is that they're getting amazing educators that are giving them that. That's not because of you seven sitting up there. That's because these teachers that are working in these buildings are busting their butts with larger class sizes. Remember, August, when there was an issue with Boston Valley having too many students, and 2 board meetings, parents came up and talked about, why is there more than 25 kids in my class? And I believe the superintendent made a comment about, we can't separate them now because they formed friendships. Or, when my son had to come and speak because you had to cut $4,000 from the high school extracurricular activities. You cut drama, Writers Guild, the Freedom Club or the Peace Club, and another one, and they had to come back and petition to get that money from you folks. So it's not like you're responsible for for providing those programs. It's the students and the teachers that fought this year for those programs. It's the parents that stand up at Charlotte or Boston Valley or whatever and say, my kids are sitting on the floor in the middle school Spanish class because there's more than 25 kids in the class. It's the parents that have to stand up at board meetings and remind the board that it's against school regulation to use the district website for your own message, Joan. These are the problems that are happening. It's the board. You need to work together. Serving subpoenas on private citizens for speaking out against you or expressing their displeasure with you is common. But yet you're subpoenaing me for a lawsuit I have nothing to do with. So next time you're reaching around to pat yourself on the back, make sure you applaud every teacher, every parent, and every student in this building and in every building that Hamburg Central School District is a part of. Because those are the ones who are performing on the tests. Those are the ones who are bettering themselves. It's not because of you folks. I'm sorry.
If I could just finish, I'm afraid, Mr. Flynn, I disagree. I don't think you did answer my question. I don't want to focus on the negative. The school is doing great things. The kids are doing well. But as an analogy, my daughter's doing well. She's a great kid. She's intelligent, great job, independent, responsible. But if she decides to lie to me and be deceptive, that needs to be addressed. I haven't heard any of you address these lawsuits.
We're not going to try this in the court of public opinion.
Just drop
As much as everyone seems to want to.
Well, it's public money, that's the problem.
I understand that.
You don't even know what's going on.
Is this,
It is
the budget hearing, I believe, is there other questions about the budget tonight?
I have a question about the budget. And you know I've been coming to meetings now going on 6 years. I think I've missed 3. When did you actually vote? When was the resolution to commence a lawsuit, to spend taxpayer dollars on a lawsuit? Do you have any recollection of that? Diane Reynolds, Patty Berner-Collins, Joan Hawkins, Mr. Dills, you're all named as plaintiffs. When did you vote publicly to sue me, Sally, and Sally's daughter? Please address that issue to the public. The public should know. When did you vote? No, Mr. Kramvich, I'm asking the question.
Legal actions are not really common. There are other,
It's a budget action. It's a budget action.
is there?
Funds were appropriated.
Thought I saw a hand, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Was there something?
Yeah, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yes. In the increase in the school budget, it's beginning, when I look at my tax bill, that the school tax portion is getting to be over 50%. When is enough enough? When is it going to be that the board or the administration looks at it from the taxpayer? We're doing things great for kids, but every year these little things just keep on creeping up. When are we going to address things, the teachers, the administration, the state? These are the things that I would expect the administration and the board to be working on.
And we are working on, certainly the taxpayer issue is something we focused on. We have the levy limit that's been put in place by the governor and the legislature. I think you saw in our slides in the early, if you're here early, you saw our slides where we, over a 3-year period of time, it's been about a $1.2 million increase in the budget. So we control our expenditures as much as possible. We reduce staff, and we had that impact on the taxpayer by a reduction in the taxes due to those reductions. This year it's different because when we started putting the budget together early, it was a matter of cutting into significant programs and really taking Hamburg to a place where we've never been, and not having AP courses, perhaps not having sports programs, etc. Where we felt this year was the year to put that forward in terms of continuing what we have. It's nothing additional, and it's reductions that are enrollment driven.
And unfortunately, if you don't have a good school district and if you don't provide programming, then property values tend to go down. So if the property values go down, then
But
it's
it's
hard
one
to
of
sell your home.
those years, if you go back 10 years, you look at what you're paying in school, it's on that glide path. The seniors who are on fixed income, limited resources, they're going to have to start to make some decisions. Do I pay my taxes? Do I take medicine? Do I buy food? Do I heat my home? Are we focused in the right direction for for the taxpayer.
I think what our focus is providing the balance between the taxpayer and community and student program. And again, over the past 4 years, I believe you see that balance from, actual expenditure budgets being reduced from one year to the next. We did that in 2 years, where it was reduced, a very small increase in expenditures. And with the growth that we're having in expenditure items in the budget, you can withstand those reductions only for so long before you change the real fabric of the school district. And what we've heard over the last year was that we're not willing to do that people aren't going to support for the reduction in program, for the reduction in staff, and that we needed to look at a more substantial increase this year in order to, and again, there's no additions, that's just how the budget is increasing.
What is amazing to me, Steve, is that there's less than 50 people here on proposed budget. Either people don't care, okay, or we got people in Hamburg that have all kinds of money that are gonna say, hey, we're just gonna vote for it. It takes the responsibility away from every one of you on the board.
Sir, most of the one behind you are required to be their students, so it's even less than you think.
But I'm just saying, there's a lot of, you would think this place be loaded, okay?
And when you look at
We've had years, we've come here, and the whole side was filled with teachers because the budget was coming up. Apparently, we don't have, or their contract, apparently we don't have a contract negotiation going on with them. But I think this place would have been loaded tonight. Everybody hearing there's over a 5% increase in the school tax. It's a tough balancing act, guy. I sympathize with you, but the taxpayer, I have a couple of rentals, whatever it's, I gotta pass it on, and I have seniors in them. Okay? So.
But Barb, didn't you mention that next year it looks just as bleak, correct? In the budget workshop, didn't we say that, next year we're looking at pretty much the same increase, correct?
Well, all things remaining consistent, yes, because, we still anticipate having a gap elimination.
15%.
And if we received all of our state aid in the manner that the formula had been calculated to provide, then we and all the other districts would not find ourselves in nearly the position we're in. So until such a time that state aid continues to flow the way that it should be, we're all going to find ourselves in this position.
So we got to control expenditures.
And this isn't a Hamburg problem. This isn't a Western New York problem. This is a New York State problem. You look at the drivers of our expense. Barb, you've showed it many times. Pension costs, employee benefits costs, healthcare. These are really the major drivers. Until things finally change in New York, which I'm part of the legislative committee on the Erie County Association of School Boards, and we try to reach out to local legislators to push these points that it's got to be two-pronged. You need to fund schools properly so you don't just keep putting more and more pressure on the backs of the individual taxpayers, the individual residents of the districts, and you need to make sure that the districts have the ability to control their expenses. I think that's one of the things that shocked me after going through multiple budgets, both as a board and being a private citizen. As you get into it, it's amazing how little of it you really control. A lot of it is just, if you want to continue to have the program, you want to continue to have the teachers, then this is what you have to do. You look at us controlling expenditures from an administrative standpoint. I'm not sure how many administrators were down from 3 years ago and what the overall expense is, but we've hit 8% on administrative efficiencies.
And the problem in Hamburg, we don't have the industry. We don't have malls, we don't have Lowe's, we don't have Targets.
You have a Lowe's.
It's not in
Yeah,
our
sure.
district. That's here. So, we do have a casino, but that's another story. Don't get me started on that one. I would love to go knock on, that's another, we won't get into that.
There was another good question again. the gentleman behind you, I think, is still speaking.
On the contractual, is that mandated by the state or is it individual school district? You negotiate with the teachers on benefits, pension, and health care.
The pension costs are controlled by the state, both for the employees' retirement system and the teachers' retirement system, and those rates are set by the state. One of the reasons for a significant budget increase this year was the teachers' retirement system rate had increased by about 4.5%, a little over 4.5% as a matter of fact, so that's why you see such a significant increase there. The district is responsible for its employment contracts, its collective bargaining agreements with the individual groups. And, you know, those are negotiated on, you know, whether it's a 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year basis for the various collective bargaining agencies that we deal with.
As senior teachers retire and they're at their top step in pay, and new teachers come in at bottom step of pay, and as they come in, not as a tier 1, 2, or 3 in the retirement system, coming in tier 5, tier 6 right now, they're never going to see the benefit package that the tier 3s have. So our contribution to the state is teachers retire, replaced by young teachers, those costs are eventually going to come down just through attrition.
Will they also work with administrators?
The administrators, well, we are from the top. We are highly paid administrators in this district, yes.
Basically, the state is throwing it all back to the district.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Triborough Amendment?
No,
Are you familiar with the Triborough Amendment?
I didn't hear you.
It's called the Triborough Amendment.
Okay.
Its roots go back to the mid-70s. Basically what it does is it for any public union, when their contract is up, when it expires, until you have a new contract, you continue under the terms of the old contract. I won't go into much more detail on it, but I would recommend, there's a lot of research on it. There's a lot of information on the internet. It's one of the, almost the third rail.
firefighters in Buffalo are under the Triborough Amendment for years. They've had a contract for years.
And the teachers
And the teachers in Buffalo are the Triborough Amendment. They haven't got any raises, but they haven't lost anything either.
that actually would end up costing us more because our teachers did take a freeze from STEP last year. And if you look, and it's published, and this is all public, but our teachers are really among the lowest paid in Western New York. They might be the lowest, well, like, almost. They're pretty close.
It was like 87.
74 out of 98.
Yeah.
And our
Yeah, 74, thank
And our
you.
administrators are the top 10%, okay?
Speaking of driving and controlling expenditures, does Hamburg have a 530 bus? And if so, how much does that cost and how many students use it?
Do you have the cost of the 530 bus?
We do have a 530 bus?
It's about $15,000.
$15,000
Right.
for the year. And how many students use that?
I'd have to see, but it's the students who need to get home at that time, typically after an athletic practice, that are the users of that. So that's something that we've studied, something we've looked at, and we feel that the benefit for those students to be able to participate in extracurricular activities and athletics are worth the $15,000 that we pay for that Dr. bus.
Oh,
And that
I'm
bus
sure
is
that
not
parents.
available to all special education children either.
What?
That's not available to special education children, children in wheelchairs, walkers,
Oh.
something like that.
Interesting. I'm sure, you know, educating kids and giving kids a full life is teamwork with the school and parents. I wouldn't be surprised if parents would maybe carpool and pick up their kids. But it would be interesting if you found out how much per child you paid for that $50,000. And I would consider dropping the 530 bus.
You want a motion to adjourn the meeting?
No.
Executive session. Adjourn the executive session, I'm sorry. All right, the motion to adjourn the executive session at, what is it? 7:20. To discuss the status of the Opposed?
We're going to the